Well, that was certainly a baseball game. We got a lot to talk about here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I'm your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patna. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com for Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Control the Zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. We have a ton to cover about the Mariners today, particularly from this wild, wacky 2-1 win that they just had in Oakland to secure a sweep over the A's, a sweep that, quite frankly, they had no business walking out of Oakland with, but we will take it. They were no hit through the first 7 2/3 innings of this game by Frankie Montas. Then they got a couple of hits in the 8th inning, but hits were not required for them to win this game, because in the 9th inning, they scored both of their runs that they needed to win this game on a pair of wild pitches by AJ Puck. They walked 4 times and recorded 0 hits in that inning and won this ball game. But you can't feel all too great walking out of this game because Ty France unfortunately had to leave with an apparent arm injury. It did not look good either. We're going to be talking a little later in the show about what it would mean for the Mariners if his absence, as is expected, ends up being extensive. We're also going to be talking about Tom Murphy, whose season has officially come to an end. He is going to undergo season-ending shoulder surgery some point this week. So we're going to be talking about that as well. But let's get into this game. It was crazy. It was dumb, quite frankly. It was one of the dumbest games we've watched all year. It was certainly the dumbest win that the Mariners have had this season. And I guess, Colby, chaos ball is back? Question mark.
Really bad Oakland A's baseball is back.
Yeah.
That is certainly true. Questionable bullpen management by Mark Kotze is back. Montes was only at 102 pitches and really only labored with high leverage pitches in the 8th. So, I mean, probably should have sent him back out there, but, you'll take it. I guess good on the Mariners for not chasing pitches that were a foot off the plate. I mean, that's something, right? So, it's one of those wins that, if it didn't have the big dark cloud of Ty France possibly dealing with a major injury. I know the reports so far have been relatively optimistic, but I was never worried about him having broken his wrist or anything like that. I'm more worried about ligament damage, and we'll find out more about that tomorrow when he has an MRI. It's hard to imagine he's not headed to the IL, even if it is only for 10 days. You're right, or 15 days. We're right in the stretch where those 15 days are the most critical to your entire season, and now you're going to be out without your best hitter in theory. We'll see. Maybe they get really good luck, but hasn't really been the Mariners' way this year, at least when it comes to their position players. So we'll see. But yeah, overall, the game was wacky, and the 9th inning was, fun. I'll say it was. Honestly, once the bases were loaded, I felt like it'll be interesting to see how the A's blow this. I was thinking maybe a hit by pitch. I was thinking maybe a bases loaded balk or something like that. I was not expecting 2 wild pitches on back-to-back hitters, but you take what you can get, and the end of the day, you are, you're 3 games closer to 500 than you were on Tuesday. So you'll take it.
Robbie Ray goes 6 innings, gave up the 1 run in the first inning. He strikes out 6, walks 2, gets 15 swings and misses, gave up 6 hard hit balls. What did you see out of Ray today?
Yeah, not he threw a lot of sliders today. The last 2 starts, really, it's been very sinker heavy, and he did feature that pitch pretty prominently. 22% 2-seamers, 24% 4-seamers. But yeah, he was really, really focused on the slider today. He threw 38 of them, got 17 swings on them, got 7 whiffs on the pitch, and actually threw 3 in the strike zone for called strikes. He was pretty good. I'd stop short of calling him really good. He actually mixed in a few more knuckle curves than we're used to. He threw 12, which is a bit odd, but the slider was pretty good for the most part. Threw some really bad ones, threw some really good ones. It had good shape, and 7 whiffs on 17 swings. It's pretty good ratio there. So it was kind of more or less old school Robbie, just in terms of the fastball slider combo. But even in this game where he did predominantly 64% fastball slider, he did throw 35% sinker knuckle curve, and so we are seeing him continuing to mix it up a little bit more than he has in the past. And we'll see how he continues to attack lineups. Eventually teams are going to adjust, and then he'll have to adjust again. But it's 3 starts in a row that have been very high quality. Granted, one of them came against Oakland, which the other one came against the A's without Shohei Ohtani and Jared Walsh. So it was like, still impressive. Anytime you take a no hitter into the 8th, the 7th, it's pretty impressive. So, but it is 3 starts in a row, regardless of the opponent, where Ray has, I believe, allowed 1 earned run over his last 3 starts. So it's good to see Robbie Ray. This is the Robbie Ray the Mariners paid for. And they're finally starting to get it, which is nice because they're starting to get production from other players as well, which honestly makes the whole Ty France thing even more of a bummer.
Yeah, so let's talk about that and what that would mean for the Mariners. We'll be getting into all of that in just a moment, but real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as them with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style, and Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft their perfect engagement ring, and each ring will be one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Mariners listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement jewelry as well. Use promo code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKEDON, plus every order is assured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. You're listening to Locked On Mariners. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. One live NBA draft show is not enough for Locked On, so the entire NBA channel is going live tonight. If you have a favorite NBA team, make sure you subscribe to their Locked On YouTube channel so you get notified when they go live on NBA draft night. So, Ty France, his injury looked pretty rough. He was in a considerable amount of pain. He was reaching for a ball on a throw by Abraham Toro and got his arm kind of bent backwards by Sheldon Neuse, who, quite frankly, wasn't really in the base path. It's a little further over to the left than he probably should have been. And like I said, France was in a lot of pain. He was on the ground for quite some time. Quite a few Mariners coaches, players, etc., gathered around him. It was not a great sight, and when he got up, he was trying to avoid putting any sort of pressure on that arm as well. So we'll see what it all means. Like you said earlier, the reports so far have been optimistic, but ultimately what it comes down to is that MRI tomorrow, and we'll see what comes of that. So if this is an extensive absence for France, what does this mean for the Mariners? Does this end their season? Because I mean, again, we saw it today. They are having a really hard time scoring runs consistently, and now you take their best bat out of the lineup.
Yeah, I don't know if it ends their season per se. I think what it does though is if you're Jerry Dipoto and maybe you want to wait to see the results of the MRI, but you probably need the bat anyways. We had heard talk that they were at least interested, or they were talking about Nelson Cruz. Probably time to accelerate those talks because you have to replace the offense. You don't have to get a guy who necessarily plays first base. That would be ideal. It'd be an easy transition, but you need somebody who can at least put up similar-ish numbers to Ty France. You can't go from Ty France to a platoon of Dylan Moore and Kevin Padlo, right? Like, that's just too far of a drop to sustain. So if you're talking about Nelson Cruz, I would double down on those talks tonight. If we're talking about Trey Mancini, I would double down on those talks tonight. Josh Bell, like regardless of who it is, right? Pick up the phone, start pushing those conversations. And Dipoto himself said this morning on 710 that they're in still. They think their team is too good to not add to. But again, they can't afford to wait until July to see if the team kind of works their way out of this, and that gets even more amplified with it gets even more amplified with Ty France being out. So whatever you were talking about with Nelson Cruz or Josh Bell or Trey Mancini or who you were talking about acquiring, you kind of need to go into overtime here and get that done. And like I said, the good news is even if France is fine and he's not going to miss any time, which seems unlikely, no problem. You're currently giving DH at bats to Justin Upton and Abraham Toro. Like,
yeah,
come on. You're not that. No, just no. You're not going to use those guys as an excuse. So we'll see. But I wouldn't say it's over, but obviously I think it puts more pressure on the front office, and they need to be a little bit more aggressive. Which shouldn't be surprising to anybody because you and I have been talking about how the front office needs to act with more urgency for about a month straight. So
yeah,
maybe this is what makes it happen. But if they don't and they wait around and they say, well, let's see, they're not going to be in a position where it makes sense to go out and get a rental like Josh Bell or Trey Mancini.
Well, Mancini does have a mutual option. So does Nelson Cruz. So that is interesting. I mean, you when you are acquiring those guys, you should kind of go into it with the mindset that, hey, I might only have this guy for the next 3-4 months. So and anything past that is a bonus. So, but still, that should be taken into account here because you are in still quite a bit of a hole. So the odds of you actually making this kind of run to fight for the playoffs is still relatively unlikely at the moment. So you can't really justify spending a whole lot on rentals, but at least with someone like Cruz or Mancini, there's the possibility of having them for next year as well. So I would certainly look into that. I think really this only dooms the Mariners if France is out for an extensive period of time, if he's out for a month, 2 months, the whole season, what have you, and then they don't do anything. Yeah, they have to do something to go along with it. If France does miss time, they have to. They just have to.
Yeah, this feels like one of those things where, well, like the injury itself is reminiscent of what happened to Max Muncy, who ended up tearing his UCL. UCL is the Tommy John ligament, basically. And obviously, if there's damage to UCL, that's it. Like, it's over. Game's over. We'll see. Again, the MRI will let us know, but despite what Service says, he's cautious. Despite Ty France saying he actually feels okay right now, just a stiff elbow. None of that matters. It's all hearsay. It shouldn't dictate Jerry Dipoto's decision. They needed to add a bat anyway. And now even if France is only going to miss 5 days, you cannot, just roll with the offense minus Ty France and hope that you're still competing in 5 days. Because right now a 5-game losing streak basically ends your season. Like, you really don't have a margin of error. So waiting around for hopefully Ty France is okay it's not a strategy. So
you got to do something here, because you got to stabilize. You got to stabilize the season.
Yeah.
And so you just can't. They're probably going to head into Anaheim tomorrow. Without Ty France. Even if he's only going to miss a couple of days, they're going to head into Anaheim without an addition made. I would think that's safe to assume, and that's fine for one game. But they cannot let this linger for multiple games. They have to do something here to replenish this offense, to supplement France's spot in some form or fashion, because that's just such a huge piece to an already bad offense. Like, it's a bad offense that is getting minimal contributions from a considerable amount of its lineup on a nightly basis. And fortunately, they've gotten some nice contributions out of guys like Cal Raleigh and Taylor Trammell as of late. And Julio's been really good the last couple of days, and aside from today, but the first 2 games of the series, and but also JP's kind of hitting a little bit of a slump right now. So Jesse Winker's starting to figure out some things, but you don't know if that's going to be another instance of him just kind of having a couple of good games and then falling off again. So there's just a lot of uncertainty in your lineup, and Ty France was the one guy that was really providing you a lot of certainty, and even he was slumping a little bit, but even then, losing him is a disaster for any sort of period of time. Whether it's 3 days, whether it's 3 months, it's a absolute unmitigated disaster for the Mariners at this point in time, because he is that critical to this offense being average, let alone good. So it's the time is now for Jerry Dipoto and company. They have to make a trade. Have to. No way around.
Especially when you go on the radio and you say, "Oh no, we think our team is too good not to invest in for the 2022 season," and then your best player gets hurt, and now you're going to be like, "Oh well, psych." Like, it doesn't work, right? So
it doesn't. Yeah,
you have to go out and you have to make a move, and it's a huge loss, and you're not going to get somebody as good offensively as Ty France. That guy's not available out there. But can you go get a guy like Josh Bell or Nelson Cruz or Mancini or whoever, somebody who's good, and then hope that the rest of the team steps up, as some of them already have. Jesse Winker's had a pretty nice month of June, and you've already mentioned Raleigh and Julio. So yeah, I mean, it's if you really believe that your team is too talented not to invest in them this year, then you need to have a new bat here by Monday, and preferably sooner. But you really can't. It's you catch a little bit of a break. You're not going to face Ohtani this weekend, but it doesn't really matter who the Mariners face. Their offense is wildly inconsistent. So they need a new bat here. They got to find a way to try and win this series without Ty France, and that's going to be a tall order. So they need somebody here by Monday, and if they have to pay 110 cents on the dollar to make it happen, then that's what they have to do. Yeah,
you just can't mess around anymore, especially when, like you said, you're making comments like that on the radio about how you view this team. It just, because if you don't, it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up whatsoever. So the injury news doesn't stop there for the Mariners. They got more bad news today. Unfortunately, Tom Murphy is done for the year. We're going to be talking about that in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I started taking Athletic Greens because I just don't have the time to research every single amazing thing that's going to make my body feel great, and I'm sure neither do you. So what is Athletic Greens? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things, and it only costs you less than $3 per day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. And it's also lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. And for every purchase, Athletic Greens donates to organizations helping to get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry, right here in the U.S. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So the Mariners are going to be without Tom Murphy for the rest of the season, and that blow is limited a little bit because Cal Raleigh's been so good here in the month of June, but it still hurts because Murphy was off to a really nice start offensively. He has, of course, a good rapport with the pitching staff, a very unique pitching staff, by the way, and he's also a leader in the Mariners clubhouse. So the Mariners are losing a lot here with the loss of Murphy for the rest of the season. He tried to make his way back. It did look like for a while there that he was going to be able to make it back for that Boston series, the 4-game set in Boston. Obviously, he suffered a setback at that time, and then we hadn't really heard much about that for the last month. And now it comes down that, from Scott Service today saying that they just needed to shut it down. He just wasn't responding properly after dislocating his shoulder. There might be some other damage in there. Of course, he's going to need to have surgery to repair that. So it's really unfortunate. The Mariners aren't in an awful place catching wise. Like I said, Raleigh's been really good this month. And Terrens, at least defensively, has been better than expected. How do you feel about the Mariners catching position the rest of the way now that we know that Murphy is not coming back?
Feel okay about it.
Yeah.
I think it hurts more in terms of the leadership that Murphy had, the stature that he had in that clubhouse. Just that he's not going to be around for the rest of the year. Statistically speaking, Murphy was never going to sustain what he was doing before he went on the IL. That's fine. But Raleigh is every bit a legitimate starting catcher right now. Even though I suspect he too will slow down eventually. You got to figure, right? But he's been incredible in June. And if he's even 80% of that the rest of the way, then you're fine there. And Terrens is certainly, for all of his shortcomings, he's still hitting for a decent average, got another hit today. And he's, providing plenty good defense to be a viable backup. Terrens might get some looks at first base here with Ty France out, and it kind of a way to get both him and Raleigh in the lineup without having to worry about DHing one of them. So I still think Terrens can hit a little bit here, and the defense has been, a pleasant surprise, and it's at least good enough that he can catch 2-3 times a week, which is all you need your backup catcher to do. So feel okay about it overall. Obviously, you'd rather have Tom Murphy than not have him, and your catching depth takes a big hit. But overall, if the other two guys stay healthy, big if, I feel okay about the catcher position. It's not at the top of my list of areas to get better at the deadline. Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you that we might actually see Terrens at first base, but that also means that you're kind of running the risk that if your catcher gets hurt, that creates a little bit of a problem there. But could we see Brian O'Keefe then?
Not really. Because Terrens gets hurt running the bases, or, he gets Ty France, I guess we'll start calling it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Then, no, you just roll Dylan Moore out there at first base, and the next day you call up O'Keefe. It's not that big of a deal.
All right. So no O'Keefe then? You don't want to see O'Keefe here?
I still like the idea of O'Keefe, just because he's hitting so well in AAA, and I wanted to start using Terrens more as the DH. I feel like if Luis got a little more playing time right now, he there's no way he's worse offensively than Abraham Toro right now, right? like why shouldn't Luis Terrens?
It's not saying much, but yeah.
No, but why shouldn't Luis Terrens be getting Abraham Toro's at bats? You say, well, it's because he can only play catcher and first base and DH. Well, guess what just became available? And guess what was always available? DH. So yeah, he should be. So if you have O'Keefe, you don't want to DH Terens because you're worried about, if Rob gets hurt and I got to put Terens back there and now my pitcher's hitting, blah, blah, blah. Well, you carry O'Keefe and he's more valuable to you than Kevin Padlow. The great walker, Kevin Padlow.
That's King Padlow. King Padlow.
Yes, the guy who took 4 pitches that were in the other batter's box. Yep, that guy.
Elite walksman. Elite
elite pitch taker. Kevin Padlow. He just serves more purpose than them there. My guess is that they'll just we're probably not going to get a Ty France to the IL decision tomorrow. But if it does happen on Saturday, my guess is they would just call up Drew Ellis and Padlow would just kind of be the new first baseman for a while, which gross, but who else is on the 40 man that's down there? O'Keefe's not, so it's not going to be Kelnick. We know that. So it's kind of has to be Drew Ellis unless you acquire somebody, which.
Well, don't they have a 40 man spot still?
Oh yeah, they do. You're right. They do. So they could IL France and then call up and then add O'Keefe to the 40 man if they want to. That's probably the route I would take, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But the Mariners could be in a worse spot, at least catching wise. We'll see what they do in response to the France injury. That's a big one. You got to do something there, like we said, but. We'll see what happens over the next 24 hours or so, and we'll be back on the Locked On Mariners podcast tomorrow afternoon. Be sure to check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. It's DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. The first picks of the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft have been made. Search now for Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and get over 50 insiders, the Odyssey sports experts, and the draft experts of Locked On NBA Big Board. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA Mock Draft is underway. Make Ultimate NBA Mock Draft your second listen today. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go M's. Peace.